But first, let me introduce Bill Hanks. He is the founder and CEO of Huemn. And so y'all look it up. We'll be posting all his info. But Huemn, and it's Huemn, and we'll be posting his website. It's optimization and cryo recovery. And you were saying at Vintage Park, we'll make sure we put a lot of info and where to find you. But he's a pioneer of a health optimization movement, which is one of the reasons I reached out to him. I follow him on Facebook and Instagram. And basically looking at a new paradigm that redefines health and longevity. It's not just as simple as going out and training. We used to say, pain, no gain, and just train. And like what we talk about, training is digging a hole, right? Recovery is filling that hole back in. But everybody I know, everybody that comes in to see me at the clinic is like dig. And when I ask them what they do for recovery, their eyes glaze over. They don't know what that means. So basically, we'll get into all his background, but engineering and business leader, passionate about science. He paves new ways and paths for individuals that want to live their life in peak performance through a ton of different modalities and tools that support health through a complex systems approach. Human optimization, I like that word a lot better than biohacking. We all want to be optimized humans from a body, mind, and spirit, not just body, right? And it takes a lot more than simply going into the gym every day or exercising. It's eating well. It's putting good fuel in your body. It's recovering well, and it's doing all these things. The info is out there, guys. So we're going to kind of share some of these modalities for longevity and anti-aging and whatever word you want to use with it. But I really like the word human optimization because you need to optimize in all three realms, right? And human optimization involves a lot of things. And first, let me bring on Bill. And nice to have you here. Finally, this is the first time that we're meeting, other than on the internet. But tell us a little bit about what you do over there at Huemn.
Okay. So you give a very good intro, and thanks for having me on. And I think it really ties back to that recovery aspect of it. And I think people don't realize, and I didn't realize, I went through that same thing in my own story where it was train and not take care of your body. You just felt like, I need to do more. Pretty quick, you're just a ball of inflammation, right? And then anyways, the whole human potential and reaching that human potential, I think, is really geared around the recovery aspect of it. Like, right, we go in cycles and we have to take time to repair, recover, and then we push hard. And what happens is we never take that time, and we can't push that hard. And so we're in these flow states, right? And you're really trying to optimize it when you're in that flow state. And so doing so requires that downtime and thought, and even the spiritual side of it, which Greg, I'm sure, will talk about. That's got to be involved as well. So from my background and my experience, I was needing some of that in my life and needed the recovery aspect of it. And so we just kind of started putting together some pieces and opened up a shop there in Vintage Park. And we just kind of around that optimization, we help people take control of their health, right? And get a little bit more info, like whether it's managing their heart rate variability or their resting heart rate, blood pressure, whatever it is. Like all these modalities are things that don't have side effects, right? And when I was struggling with my own stuff, it was things that had side effects. Like I'd go to the doctor and it was looking like I was going to have surgery, or I was going to take more medications, right? And so I was like, well, what's going on here? And kind of looking at it from a systems perspective, and that's kind of my engineering background. And I just wanted to kind of take a step back and go, well, okay, what's going on? Well, I got a lot of inflammation. I'm beat down and stuff. And so I started treating inflammation. We started doing cryotherapy and compression, some of the stuff that you guys do at your shop. So it was just kind of a nice little way to kind of transition into this non-side effect approach of reaching optimal health. And so we have a lot of services there, but I think all of them kind of geared gear around, reducing inflammation, recovering faster, improving that heart rate variability. And then all of those, it's been shown that the higher your heart rate variability is and the less stress you are, the better you perform and get into those flow states and, optimal performance. So
now, what type of, it says, y'all do biomarker testing. What type of biomarker testing do y'all look at?
Well, we look at a few different ones. You come into the clinic, we have a standard baseline test where you take a simple finger stick, a little bit of blood on it, and you send it off and you get your CRP, so your C-reactive protein, which is the main marker for inflammation. Vitamin D is another one that comes with that, and then hemoglobin A1C. So how's your metabolism doing? So
all the ones I test also.
Yeah, so it just kind of like gives you a baseline of like where you're at, metabolically, vitamin D, inflammation, and like if you're managing those, and we can talk about it with the COVID and all that stuff, you just start managing those, you're gonna be doing really well.
Resilient, and that's the thing is, you mentioned it earlier. We really didn't talk about, with COVID, we're not talking about the things that we need to be talking about, and that's like improving our immune system as it is, because the people that are already coming in, they're already immune compromised.
Right.
And even if they're not overweight and obese yet, and things like that, there's a lot of people with high A1Cs, with high we run an HS, high sensitivity CRP, and that just tells your overall inflammation status. 80% plus of patients coming in are vitamin D deficient, and that's like one of the simplest things that you could do for, inflammation, for sleep disruption. Vitamin D deficiency causes any number of things, from anxiety, depression to a ton of other things. And I had a guy this morning that was 18. So, it's not uncommon to see them in their teens to 20s, and that's very low. Ideally, it's like 60 to 100. I don't know what y'all recommend. But as far as like what was that switch? What made you go, I want to open a shop that tailors to
good question. I think it was just kind of an opportunity in my life to do something different, right? So I kind of went the traditional route of going to school, getting a master's and a degree in engineering, and I was working oil and gas, and in that we did a lot of production engineering where you're like optimizing wells and you're making sure they're operating properly and doing all these detailed work on this. And then like when it comes to ourselves, right, we don't do anything. We like outsource it to a doctor who looks at like 5 things, right, and they just tell you, oh, your cholesterol's fine, you're right, and so you're good to go, but you're not. You don't feel good. You're depressed. You don't have so many things that are going on. And it just kind of led into it, right? And I just kind of had that break from a position I was in, and I was like, let's try this, and obviously we've been doing it for 4 years now, and it's been good. It's been a challenge, right? But being a business owner is tough, right? Especially now, and when nobody's coming in, or it's picking back up, but it's just been different, but it's been so much more rewarding, right? And just seeing, helping people and helping them improve their nervous system where they're not stressed all the time, reducing their inflammation, feeling better. We have tons of stories. I'm sure you do too. And so it's just a great place to be where you can help people just on a different level that they haven't had before. So for me, it was just having an opportunity, seeing a need in the market and something that I enjoyed doing, and just went with it, so.
Well, there's a whole list of, stuff that they do over there at Huemn that I really like, and geek out on. So the photobiomodulation, what do y'all do with that? Do y'all do that in contrast therapy with, and explain kind of what photobiomodulation is, because it's a real fancy word, but it's just really like red light therapy. This is red light therapy.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned vitamin D, right? And vitamin D generally comes from the sun, right? So we know that the sun has some pretty good benefits of light, right? So it affects the body in positive ways. And so the photobiomodulation is a couple frequencies of lights. I think it's 810 nanometers to 890, and then 610 to 680, something like that. But it's a red and a near infrared. And those two those two wavelengths, and kind of right in there, been shown to have some really good properties on the mitochondria of the cell. So the mitochondria, if you don't know, is where the energy is produced, right? And so when they're operating correctly, you feel better, your cells are doing what they need to be doing, they're, pushing the electrons where they need to be. But what happens is we don't get enough light or something, an injury or something like that, and certain cells start to get starved of this oxygen that's helping these mitochondria. And what photobiomodulation does is there's a portion of the mitochondria, and it allows a decoupling of free radicals from a place called cytochrome C oxidase. It's probably getting a little detailed, but anyways, you guys probably
okay.
We're okay. But that decoupling releases nitric oxide, and nitric oxide is like the oil in your body, right? It's what lets things move around and do what it's supposed to do. So your car, if it doesn't have oil, it's going to seize up and then go kaput.
The ancient Roman soldiers, they actually did heliotherapy. They would have them lay out in the sun for 15, 20, 30 minutes to increase nitric oxide, because the sun increases nitric oxide. And so again, I'm not telling people not to take a nitric oxide supplement, but go out in the sun. It's cheap, it's free. And we've moved away from, I always say we've moved so far away from how we're supposed to function primally that we're sick. We're progressed to the point where we're ill. So we're cave dwellers again.
Right.
Where we get up, it's dark, we go to work in our car, we're inside all day, we come home, it's dark, and then we try to binge in the weekend and try to sit out for 8 hours, and then we burn, and then that caused skin cancer. Oh man, we're not. Nobody's advocating a burn.
Right.
So.
And that's what the beauty is of these two frequencies. You don't get any of that harmful UVB light, and that's what causes the skin cancer and the problems with that. So, and in the winter months, no matter how hard you try, you're not going to get that much of those good frequencies. So that's why this photobiomodulation works so well. And we've got people from, we got one lady's 87, and she just loves it, and she just comes by 3 times a week, gets in that bed, feels good. And then we've got young kids doing it for sports recovery, and then we've got people who do it just for the skin benefits.
Do y'all do any contrast? Do y'all have them get in cryo and then do?
Yeah, it pretty much there's a lot of people who do that because the photobiomodulation really isn't hot that itself, right? But it does warm you up some, right? And you do get flush. So like if you do the cryo and then go do that, then it's a nice little treat afterwards, because the cryo kind of gets you that cold and then warm right back up. So.
And so the other thing, we kind of touched on this is y'all have the newbie there, the new fit.
Yeah.
That's another little hacking human optimization trick that it's really come about. It is, if you haven't tried it, guys, it's incredible. Yeah. It just, Jason.
2 or 3 years now, and it's been amazing. Like you said, you had an injury, right? And so the injury, your body kind of goes into protection mode. It's like yours was your bicep, right? So it didn't want to hurt your bicep, so it kind of shut down muscles and said, don't fire these muscles. Well, what happens when you want to come back to using those muscles? They're not there anymore, because that brain connection to those, nerves and everything that was controlling those muscles gone. It just atrophied, right?
And there was nothing naturally I could do to get it back. It
right.
wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, there's no way. Well, hours and hours of PT, right? Yeah. Just incredible amount of time. And PT's good, but what if you could signal that exact muscle that's not firing, right? And you could get to that shortcut and just hit it and find out exactly what's not firing. And then that's what the pads do, and the DC electricity is it finds out by pain signal. That's what you got, because that's your body in that protection mode, and so when it hits that muscle that's trying to protect, and then it goes back to its normal state after you put the DC current through it, and you find out that it's okay to move there, right? Your brain started going, oh, okay, I can do that, I can do that. But that that connection to those nerves and that damaged tissue and or atrophy would have never came back if you hadn't had some way to like wake it up, right? And that's what the beauty is of the new fit. And Garrett over in Austin, he's the creator of it. There's other versions out there, but he's just doing an awesome job of like training people on how to use it, right? And that's I think the best thing is because like without that, it's just another device, exactly. Right? So you got to have, sounds like you got a good trainer and they know what to do and how to work it, and I think that's the way to go about it. But like for any kind of old injury or something that's just been nagging you for a while and you just can't get back, I think it's one of the best tools.
I think
and go back to the basics, but as far as the VO2 max and everything like that, what do y'all do as far as testing and metabolic testing there with y'all?
Yeah, so first of all, I just want to say that community aspect is so important, and Greg was just mentioning that. And as we've been isolated, we've there's a lot of people who came to us daily as a community. That's where they come to talk, and we would share stories and things like that. But we that's a big part of it too. So just having that. But in terms of the contrast altitude training. We aren't doing that right now. We're kind of working back into that, obviously, just with the certain aspects of COVID and the respiration and all that kind of stuff. We're just like, okay, let's hold off on that for a little bit. But hypoxic sprint intervals, you may have seen people like who wear the mask and all that. But what this one does, it actually reduces the percent of the oxygen that you intake. So it's like similar to being like 10,000 foot altitude, and so. Like we have these series of sprints where someone will come in and they'll do a sprint like at that 8 to 10,000 feet, and then we'll flood them with altitude because your body becomes real receptive of oxygen. Everything's opened up, and then all of a sudden you go to breathe in almost pure oxygen. You get like this deep perfusion of oxygen into the blood plasma, similar like what a hyperbaric treatment would do. So that's kind of that. And then metabolic testing and VO2 max. You have your resting metabolic rate. This is kind of like per you, how many calories do you burn? Like, are you burning fat at rest or are you burning carbs at rest? And so like knowing that can kind of tell you where your metabolism is, or how many calories you should be eating per day. Because some people like for instance, some people might have a really high metabolism and they might be starving themselves too much, and then that puts them in a deficit. The cortisol levels go up and they're never going to lose weight, right? But they're eating less and less and less, right? So they like matching that to how much you're actually burning is the way to go, versus just a broad approach for everybody.
Is there a certain time of day to run a test like that?
Yeah, obviously like first part of the morning, kind of like when you're in your rested state. You also don't want to have like a hard workout the day before because you'll be in what they call epoch. So you don't want to
to skew the numbers basically. But
so you really just want to kind of be at your baseline state, right? So doing that in the morning is a good thing. And then on the VO2 max, I think this is huge. There's a lot of people out there that are fit but not healthy, right? And so what I mean by that is like you can be lean and all that, but like you're just burning sugar all the time, but if you're able, it's about the ketones, like if you're able to burn fat as fuel, that's the best source, right? So that's like going to give you the best cognitive function. You're going to feel better. It's better for longevity, all that. So with a VO2 max, we can like give you those zones in your training, like where you need to keep your heart rate so you can be more aerobically fit, right? The more aerobic you can be at higher heart rates, the healthier you're going to be. So also the more work you're going to be able to do too. So that's kind of where that is with that, and we just kind of help people identify those and dial that in, and it's all personalized, right? And so nobody's the same, and I think that's one of the biggest things we have with like the medical nutrition is they come out and they're like they're trying to find that one size fits all, and that's not the way it is. We're all genetically different, and we all have different backgrounds, and we all we're all in a different state, and so getting that personalized aspect of it is really important.
That's cool.